Ramsey County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Carter. Here. Huffman.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Redmond.
Here.
McDonough.
Here, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning.
Morning.
First item is to approve the agenda for December 11th.
So moved. Second?
Yeah, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Redmond.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye. Next item is the approval of the minutes from November 27th.
So moved. Second.
We have motion and second. Any corrections? Roll call, please.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Redmond.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye. All right, we have a number of year-end ordinances coming to us from Public Health. The first one is number 5, Food Protection Ordinance Amendments waive the second reading.
So moved. Second?
We have motion and second. Roll call, please.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Redmond.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye. I'm going to open up the public hearing for the Food Protection Ordinance Amendments. Public hearing is now open. No one has signed up to speak on this. Is there anybody in the audience to speak on? Second request for any comments on our Food Protection Ordinance amendments. Third request. With that, I declare the public hearing closed.
Mr. Chair, can I just say one thing? If you've gone to any of the restaurants lately, there's these new signs in them that, says that it's now under St. Paul, Ramsey County Public Health. They look really sharp, and I've heard some comments from people that are very appreciative of it being out there.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. All right, number 7 is the Ramsey County Lodging Ordinance waive the second hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Roll call on waiving the second hearing.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Redmond.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye. Number 8, Ramsey County Lodging Ordinance, hold the public hearing. I declare the public hearing opened. No one has signed up to speak on this one. First call for any testifiers on our lodging ordinance. Second call for any testifiers on our lodging ordinance. Third call for any testifiers on the public hearing for our lodging ordinance. With that, I declare the public hearing closed. Our next one is item number 9, Ramsey County Manufactured Home Parks and Recreation Camping Area Ordinance, waiving the second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call on waiving the second reading.
Carter.
Yes.
Huffman.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Redmond.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye. Item number 10, Ramsey County Manufactured Home Parks and Recreational Camping Area Ordinance. I declare the public hearing open. We did receive some written comments on this, and my understanding is those changes will be incorporated next week when this comes back. But we did not get anybody to sign up to testify on this, so first call for any testifiers on our Manufactured Home Parks and Recreation Camping Area Ordinance. Second call for testifiers. Third call for testifiers on the Mobile Manufactured Home Park and Recreation Camping Area Ordinance. With that, I declare the public hearing closed. We'll move into the administrative items. Commissioner Carter, and before you start, I'd like to pull number 12, and we'll have staff just kind of do a brief update on that one.
All right,
That's
thank
been,
you.
yep.
So I'd like to move the following administrative items. Item number 11, 12 has been pulled.
Yep.
Item number 13, number 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20.
Second.
Very good. Roll call on the administrative items.
Carter,
Yes?
Huffman,
Aye.
McGuire. Aye. Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Redmond,
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye. Item number 12 is a sole source agreement with Tyler Technologies and amendment number 1 for maintenance of support. If I could get a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and Luis is going to give us a brief update. This has been, what, 3 years in the making, my
Yes.
understanding?
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to discuss the Tyler Technologies sole source agreement with maintenance and support amendment. The system that assists the assessor's office to develop estimated market values is the Tyler Technology product called CAMA, which stands for Computer Assisted Mass Appraisal. The CAMA system helps to accurately value all properties in Ramsey County to provide fair and equitable assessments for Ramsey County property owners. My department has been partnered with Tyler Technologies for more than 20 years, and in July of 2017, a sole source request was approved to replace all existing Tyler contracts with the master's agreement. The agreement is rate setting only. It commits no funding. What the agreement does is it contains all the terms and conditions that will survive the full term of the agreement, which is initially 5 years and then 2 optional 5-year renewals. Future Ramsey County purchases will be attached to the master service agreement with amendments, and the amendments will contain specific deliverables and commitments by both parties, as well as define the approve and funding source. The Amendment 1, which we have today, is included is for the maintenance and support for the CAMA system. Completing this master service agreement was a big lift for the Assessors Department. We initially started working on it in 2016 talks. It became part of the IPR monetization roadmap. Master Service Agreement creates a vehicle to ensure that we ensure timelier implementation of systems enhancements, software purchases, and professional services in an effective and efficient manner. I want to thank all involved in getting this done. It took collaboration between procurement, the county attorneys, IS, IPR admin, and Tyler personnel. And I especially want to thank Karen Shea and IPR admin and Joe Kantarek for all their help in this.
Okay. County Manager Ryan O'Connor.
Mr. Chair, let me extend my thanks to Luis and everybody else that he just mentioned as well. I think the biggest change here, this is the first time we've done the master services overarching agreement for a real complex piece of technology. And as the marketplace has changed, what we often found ourselves in was continual contract negotiations on each amendment that would get in the way of delivering a service on behalf of the residents of the community. And so it's a credit to a lot of people who both started this work and have now carried that torch forward over the last number of years. And it looks like a technical thing that shows up. So we want to just take a minute and pause to walk you through that approach and how we're continuing to try and find ways to work together to better serve residents.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Louise, Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Chair. Luis, whenever we do a single source, always those looking outside in would say, how do we know we got it the right price, right? We don't have the competitive pricing. Just talk about a little bit about how the pricing was set and how we're comfortable that it's an accurate pricing, it's a fair market pricing.
So initially, we did go out competitively priced this many years ago. And so it goes through the same purchasing, the procurement process of getting bid out to the general public.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reinhardt.
And I just wanted to comment also, I know, again, how much work was put into having this master service contract, and it's really nice to see that it's in place, and I can't help but think back a few years before that, and how difficult it was sometimes to get what we needed before Tyler Technologies, so thank you.
On behalf of the board, we want to make sure we thank all your staff and the team that worked on this. I reflect on the workshop we recently had where you had some of your frontline staff talk about the modernizations efforts and all the work going on there. And I recall the excitement and passion of your folks here as we're getting positioned here for the future and how we do assessments and the work we do in that department. So On behalf of the board, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking a moment to share a little bit more with us here as we move forward.
Okay.
All right, item number 20. Oh, thank you. Roll call.
Carter?
Yes.
Huffman?
Aye.
McGuire? Aye. Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Redmond?
Yes.
McDonough?
Aye. Item number 21, approve the 2019 amended operating budget, the 2019 tax levy, and the 2019 capital improvement program budget and financing. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I proudly move that.
Second.
Second.
And-
Commissioner Reinhardt.
And I do want, I say proudly move it because of all the work that has been put into this and the staff. I mean, across this county, each person, just as we have tried to empower every employee to meet our goals of prosperity, opportunity, well-being, and accountability, that everyone has stepped to the plate. And so regardless of where they're at, whether you're the presenter or the person putting the numbers together in the first place, it was evident as we went through our hearing process that that everyone took this very seriously, the service team approach. I mean, it's so wonderful to see the vision that we had a few years ago really coming together and making it happen here, and having this outcome-based two-year budget process is truly a role model for other governments as well. So it's a lot of time and effort and angst and oh good, that turned out well moments as we went through this process, and I'm very proud of this board and the staff and everyone that worked on it.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Rattner.
I do not plan on supporting this. I think one of the things that was said at the public hearing was that it's too much, and I think that's the way I feel. I think I do concur that the budgeting and the attention to detail, but the thing of it is tough times out there. So, thank you.
Couple quick comments here. I reflect back on our public hearing, as Commissioner Redmond pointed out, and we had a room full and certainly a number of folks that testified. And the impact that they were having, you know, the individual impacts they were having with increases to their property taxes. I think one thing I really want to highlight is the efforts that we've done in community engagement, the efforts that we've really done to try to help educate the public about our process and about our role as a county and what we do. I think we started seeing some of that at the public hearing, where the pain was real, those impacts were real, but at the same time, we had acknowledgments from those people about the difficulties we have being the safety net provider in our community. Some understanding that this is a complex. Assessments and levy increases and cities and schools and referendums all combined to have that final increase in the end. I acknowledge for each and every one of those testifiers that it doesn't matter to them except for that number on the bottom. And but I felt really that was one of the best public hearings processes I've been attended in the 18 years I've been here, both in the heartfelt comments, but then also starting to see that recognition from our residents here about the work that we do here. And I give a lot of credit to our staff and the work that they've done on helping educate the public on what we do. And this residents first approach, we're starting to see some of the payoffs in that. And we've seen that at our public hearing. So appreciate everybody's effort on that. Without any further comments, roll call on our 2019 operating budget, tax levy, and capital improvement program.
Carter?
Yes.
Huffman?
Aye.
McGuire? Aye. Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Redmond?
No.
McDonough?
Aye, thank you. And Commissioner Reinhardt, thank you for all your work in leading us through that process.
Thank you.
Do a nice job. All right, County Connections, County Manager Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, 2 updates for you today. Once again, St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health, through the WIC Department, Women's, Infants, and Children, was found to have the best redemption rate for farmers market coupons of all the WIC local agencies that chose to participate in the ongoing study of this work on an annual basis. Huge thanks to the department, specifically Megan Johnson and Kathy Duffy, for all the work they do to engage at the farmers market specifically. And huge hats off to the frontline staff members who do the extra work to explain how to use the coupons, provide required nutrition information, and do the necessary documentation. In terms of, how much involvement was there? Our WIC families redeemed over $129,000 worth of farmers market coupons this summer. Healthy, locally grown fresh fruits and veggies for our WIC families, and financial support for local growers, many of whom are people of color. It's an all-around great story, and to see Ramsey County lead the way in terms of the redemption is a real pride point for our community. Secondly, I will take you back in a connection to a piece you just approved in your board documentation today. It was item number 17, I believe. We're going to go with number 17 on the agenda. Thank you. Fake it till you make it, right? And I just wanted to highlight the important piece, and thank you for the countywide policy on workforce inclusion and contracting goals. This is many years in the making in Ramsey County, and our own evolution and discussions that we've had as an organization. This has come after thoughtful work on specific projects and for a number of years. So first, what is the workforce inclusion and contracting work? It's the idea of intentional efforts to connect Indigenous communities, communities of color, women-owned businesses to people in careers within the construction industry. It's to try and ensure that you think about how you contract every day as a way of ensuring that you're supporting local and diverse small businesses and businesses large and small, quite frankly, across this community, so that the stories that we have of we built this from scratch and is something that we all can take part in and share. Establishing and implementing a countywide policy that sets forth workforce and contracting inclusion goals for all future Ramsey County capital and development projects institutionalizes a lot of recent efforts that this board has talked about around strategic planning, performance measurement to truly support increased diversity and workforce participation in contracting. And this policy, to be clear, will apply to all capital and development projects on county-owned or managed land. It'll include Minnesota Department of Human Rights goals for workforce inclusion and goals for contracting with minority-owned, women-owned, small business enterprises for each project. A current full-time position will be put in Workforce Solutions to work with businesses. We know this can be a change for them as well, and we want to be seen as a resource to them as we ask for more from them. And we do our part to step up and be a part of that as well. I'll end just by saying, while this is a big deal on the policy front, we've been moving in this direction and seeing a lot of progress for a while. This signals that on a lot of projects where we receive state and federal funding, we've already been doing this work. And when we had a conversation about Rice Creek Commons in specific with this board and we thought about Riverfront, the question came to us of how are we going to think about those two projects for workforce and contracting inclusion. And we came to the conclusion that it shouldn't just apply to those two projects. But it's a wonderful example of how these large-scale development projects that this board has embarked upon with the organization set us up to learn lessons that we can then apply on a much broader scale across our organization. So I thank the board for their support. We're excited to implement here over the next 6 months. And for those of you in the community that spend time with other members and hear things, I think this is a big win for Ramsey County as a whole.
Thank you, Ryan. Commissioner Carter?
So I'm not aware that you were going to cover this in your update. I certainly would have pulled this item just to recognize and thank our staff, our leadership, and all for the work that has already been going on to line up our participation with the State Department of Human Rights. But even beyond that, the work that goes on beyond contracting or beyond construction, I should say, and development across the entire county, and that work is building along with this work. Specific thank you to the county manager for advancing this, for formalizing it, and for actually helping us to engage around this policy for moving us forward. A couple of specific questions too. The policy does speak to an annual report by the end of this year, to just summarize where we are this year. Is there also a call out here for monthly and or quarterly reporting against this goal and policy? And then finally, could you talk a little bit about the work that is going on even beyond construction?
Ryan?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Carter, on the question about reporting, this is our last board meeting of the year, so I probably can't do a report at a board meeting later this year. Maybe we could count this. Yes. We do commit to regular updates, and part of it is the updates that we want to bring here as part of policy discussions on a regular basis, as this is important operationalized work within our organization. As we transition it from a strategic plan item to this is how we do business, there's a part of making sure we bring it forward. Part of what we will do is ensure that people know where to access the information that is available every single day and updated monthly on the open data portal at ramseycounty.us. And we're trying to get away from the idea that we should only talk about or think about this at certain periods in time and move toward the approach that if you would like to look at a specific service team or department or the organization as a whole, that information is available online and it shows where we have progress to make. On your second question, we are doing work beyond construction. This is a formal policy in that space, but we do a lot of work around social services contracting, where in many ways we've been further ahead in engaging with small businesses and communities of color, indigenous communities for a long time. We are trying through a contracting working group to align this effort here with that work there. There is no county that's doing any sort of formalized approach, though, to how to measure and do the work outside of the construction world, so we're kind of developing the playbook as we go.
Thank you.
Before I move into the board updates, a quick comment on this item. One of the things I'm really pleased to see in there, and I think one of the things that really makes this a strong and potentially very effective resolution here and how we move forward and actually making change in our community is the recognition that setting goals is one thing, but using it as a mandate is not the most effective way of getting things done, and that's addressed in the board documentation, but really building partnerships within the community, outreaching within the community, helping to even build that capacity in the community to work with us and to be able to be successful in our contracts, I believe truly is going to be where we get that success, whether it's in road and bridge projects or as we start moving it throughout the whole county. Those partnerships are going to be really important, and not just taking this mandated kind of stick approach, but really this understanding that we partner with all the folks in our community to be successful with the contracts we put out on the street. So thanks for all the work that everybody's put into this. I know that been on the board for 18 years, and I think we've been talking about this for at least 12 of those years, or at least since Commissioner Carter came on the board in 2005, which is about 12 of those years. So thank you. And Commissioner Carter, I do want to recognize you have kept this in front of us and kept this in front of staff for a long time. So with that, Commissioner Carter, we'll have you start off with outside board and committee reports.
All right, thank you very much. I guess I'll start chronologically. Before the actual LUC, which is Large Urban Counties, and National Association of Counties board meeting that I had the pleasure of attending along with Commissioner McGuire. We did attend the Association of Minnesota Counties conference, which was held here in Bloomington. And it was an opportunity, of course, to go through all of our policy making, completion at the end of the year, and to prepare for the Association of Minnesota Counties 2019 legislative platform, also to elect the leadership. But a couple of things that happened that I guess I might as well, since I'm first, talk about were that our county manager, Julie Kleinschmidt,
Former county manager.
our former county manager, Julie Kleinschmidt, was awarded for excellence in county leadership. And it was great to be there, to be a part of the community celebrating her, the statewide community, and along with our board members as well. I could have had a potential conflict, but decided not to attend that conflict because I wanted to be there for Julie, and it was special. But I also received a surprise, and that was recognition from County Commissioner Susan Morris of Isanti County. You're stopping me.
Yes, I am, because I was just notified that your mic is not working.
Oh, okay. So I can talk louder. It is
I'm not
on.
sure.
Thank you.
I just got a text message, so.
Thank you, thank you. I did receive a surprise, and thank you for all of you for keeping that surprise.
Yes.
And that was the presidential award from President Susan Morris of Isanti County. And it was a very special opportunity to just say thank you to all of you for the support that you've provided to our county leadership and to all of our staff for the opportunity to take credit on all of your behalf. So thank you so very, very much for being here, President. Again, I did attend the Large Urban Counties Caucus and the National Association of Counties Caucus, which was held in San Diego this year. The focus of the Large Urban Counties Caucus was connecting the unconnected, and that follows the president of NACO, last year president of NACO's serving the underserved. So this continues to be an opportunity to look at best practices, work that's going on around the country, to use data to connect to the needs of all of our communities. And so it was a very good conference focusing on connecting the unconnected. The National Association of Counties Board of Directors followed that. Couple of interesting things that happened. Let me back up. At the Large Urban Counties Caucus was that we were able to actually visit the border at Tijuana. It was an interesting visit. It was not as crowded as you might have imagined. It was actually raining pretty hard in San Diego almost the whole time of the Large Urban Counties Caucus. But it was an astonishing opportunity to visit that point of entry, to hear about the difficulties of managing the point of entry, to see the walls that have been constructed, both the outer and inner walls and or fencing, and to see prototypes, examples of future possibilities of reinforcements, and just to understand a little bit more what those people who are patrolling the border and representing us in that regard are dealing with. The sensitivity of those issues, the difficulties that they have, and all of the considerations that go into understanding how we remain, a country that is receptive to those immigrating for need, for danger, and that actually also is able to protect herself. So that was an interesting visit. Another thing that we discussed at the National Association of Counties was that the U.S. Communities contract is being dissolved. And as you know, U.S. Communities is an opportunity for counties and governments across the United States to purchase together. That contract is being dissolved because of its inability, actually a change in ownership and its inability to continue to work for the National Association of Counties as it has in the past. I also attended the Greater Metropolitan Workforce Council Board just yesterday. And we were able to hear the sector strategies and sector goals for the key industries or for the key sectors that we're working in, to discuss metrics and measurements going into the 2019 year, and also to just debrief that the process is in place, the posting is out for the executive director of the Greater Metropolitan Workforce Council. Interviews are being conducted, phone screenings are being conducted. I want to thank our staff for the work that they've been doing along with other staffs and assisting with that. And we will be interviewing as a board those who come through the screening in January. So we should have an executive director to forward that work on pathways and on overcoming employment disparity shortly. The last thing I'll mention is that I attended a meeting, Economic Inclusion Roundtable at the Urban League yesterday. It was convened by the Minnesota National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And it included national visitors who spoke about work that they will be doing with the Twin Cities metropolitan area, looking at not simply studying an economic inclusion plan, but helping these communities to advance that plan. There was a focus on legislative policy at the state and national level that the NAACP is pursuing, and also on action steps for this region. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I'm going to follow up on some of Tony's comments, and first of all, to congratulate Tony again about her receiving her award. The President's Award is, I think, one of the highest honors that you can get in our Association of Minnesota Counties. It's given by the President to someone who's really been instrumental in their development as a leader and just instrumental in helping the organization move forward. And so I think it was a well-deserved award that you got from our president. And then also, of course, our former county manager, Julie Kleinschmidt, getting the award. I was honored to be reelected Secretary-Treasurer of the Association of Minnesota Counties, so I'm proud to be serving in that capacity this next year. And as Commissioner Carter already recognized, we did do we voted on issues that we're going to take into the coming legislative session, and I just want to highlight a couple of those issues. Each committee gets to pick one issue, and it's really hard to pick an issue, and but these are just some of the highlights of the issues. We have many issues that that counties care about in our state and federal platform, but in environment and natural resources, we are concerned about the Section 404 waters and wetlands dredge and regulatory program, and so we're supporting assuming that work in collaboration with local governments. Also, in general government, we want to preserve our tax base. This is amazing that we come up with issues that all 87 counties can support, and we all care about preserving our tax base. In Health and Human Services, we support maintaining the state's healthcare provider tax, which helps with our SHIP programs. In Health and Human Services, mental health services, we support funding those, including state-operated services and eliminating cost shifts to counties. In public safety, as we know, we're a Community Corrections Act county, and we support community supervision and funding for that from our state and federal partners. In transportation, we support transportation funding for a comprehensive work for roads, bridges, and transit, and also infrastructure spending. So it's a platform that we all could get behind, and we'll be working on it throughout the year. Also, I want to recognize a local organization that's actually headquartered in Ramsey County, and it was a backpack build event that we have at AMC, where all of the commissioners and guests are invited to help build backpacks for schools. And the organization is called Kids in Need, and it's actually headquartered in Roseville, Ramsey County, and it was great to see that organizations, they put together these packs, and then it's offered free to schools in need. So the teachers from these schools can come in and get those supplies that they need. So I just wanted to highlight that program. And then I just want to highlight a few things, because I did attend the large urban county caucus, and as we said, it was connecting the unconnected, and just some of the highlights of that was we talked about disease outbreaks in urban counties, which we deal with, curbing youth violence through connections and opportunity. We visited a Live Well Center, which is a one-stop shop for health and social services for residents. And it was just a really great opportunity for us to gather with commissioners and staff to really think about what we can be doing in our county and how we can be working on all of these issues together. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Ortega.
Excuse me. I'd like to highlight the St. Paul College Scholarship Gala. It was, I've attended that event since I think day one, but it always amazes me they do such a great job. There were 3 food stations. All the food was prepared and cooked by the students. It was just excellent, and no chicken. So I encourage next year for everybody to attend. But just that night alone, we raised over $100,000 for scholarships for the kids, and that's what it's all about. And last year it was about 80,000. Each year we keep moving the dial up, and it's great because Majority of those kids get scholarship money to go to that college.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Huffman. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Well, just a few things. The AMC conference, again, was really, it was really vibrant. I mean, there was a lot of things that were going on, and they are using the NACO model for the committees and making sure that things can get claimed in the resolutions. And it was great to see how smoothly that worked. And it was important for the Environment and Natural Resources Committee because there were things that were claimed. And anyhow, it worked exactly the way it was supposed to. And considering that it was the first time that many of the commissioners had really dealt with that process, I was very pleased with how well it worked. Just a couple of highlights. I did not go to Luck, but I did get when at the NACO annual conference. I think it's Second VP Greg Cox, who is from that area, really talked about the 211 and the one door, and so I knew that it was going to be great, but I also felt like I had enough information, and there was so much going on here too. Yeah. So I'm glad that you were able to see that as I had in July. The Greater MSP, I am co-chair of the Partner Advisory Council, which is changing significantly with the new 2.0 and moving forward. And so we had kind of a kickoff meeting for that changeover into something that is much bigger, getting more CEOs and local government partners, nonprofits all together and really saying, okay, now how do we actually implement this? And so it wasn't the usual suspects there. There were about, I'm guessing, probably about 80 people there. It was really a fantastic turnout and really digging down into how do we make this work? How do we make sure that people engage and that we're working as a region? That it's no longer, St. Paul versus Minneapolis and some of the issues that we've had to deal with in the past and how it's still difficult, but you have to try to look beyond that and try to figure out how do we work together as a region. So it is moving forward. It was one of the last meetings that Michael Langley, who is the retiring executive director for Greater MSP, would be really presenting a lot of information at. So he was, as always, he is very animated and very excited and motivating, and so it was great, along with Robbie Norman from Thor Companies. The two other things very quickly. The Lake Links Association had a meeting last night, and this is the trail that goes around White Bear Lake, and so it involves 2 counties, and I don't even know how many communities, at least 5. And really zeroing in on last night's meeting was primarily about South Shore Boulevard and White Bear Lake and White Bear Township. Again, Washington County and Ramsey County on just that one section of it. And Joe Lux, our staff, did such a fantastic job. And I just wanted to do a shout out to him for really walking through these things, because when you're talking about the trails and one-way roads or two-way roads and how this is all going to fit together and the funding and some of the state funding and what we have to do at the county and the city and the township and how, quite frankly, it's complicated and people don't necessarily understand, well, why isn't this done? And he went through the entire process and was, just honest with people, which is what we always try to do, but in a way that he said, if I say I don't know, it's because I really don't know. And there are certain things that we are still exploring to try to figure out what those answers are, because when we do it, we want to do it right. So again, a big shout out to Joe in the job that he did. And then finally, I had the pleasure of doing the introduction again at the Sundays at Landmark series. And it is so fun to be there. This one was Santa's Workshop, and I had my granddaughter there because my husband and grandson were on stage at Lakeshore Players, and so it was just Polly and I. And wow, did we have a good time. So much fun for kids. So I hope that people will look at what's happening with Sundays at Landmark. It's always a family-friendly event, and the kids and the parents and the grandparents and anyone that comes in there just has a fabulous time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rettman.
The only item I want to talk about is, you may have seen on either social media and/or in the paper about Mike Hartzell, who passed away. He was perceived as a homeless man who lived on Rice Street. He was home. He was born on Rice Street, and he died. Some would have seen him as a homeless person, but he knew more about me than sometimes I did, because he was a well-read man. He paid his own way. One of the highest honors I will ever have is he gave me a Christmas card one year and said that I respected him. Thing of it is, it was more than respect. Some would have said he needs to be elsewhere. He was still on watch. And something happened in the war when he was in the service, but he felt that he was still on watch, doing his job. And the businesses and the community protected him, and he protected them. And today is the day we are all mourning for him at various times. And I will miss him. Rice Street will miss him. But he's on watch in a better place. Amen.
Thank you, Janice. One quick update. During the annual conference, I was able to, along with County Attorney John Choi, Interim Director, Public Health Director Kathy Hadeen, Pahua Vang, Ella Husan, and Erica Schumacher, we did a breakout session on our Start By Believing campaign. Very well attended, since it was in the last breakout on the last day of the conference. But it was a great presentation, well received, and a number of county commissioners and staff reaching out afterwards about exploring how they can become Start By Believing counties and communities. And I think, the leadership that, in particular John did with his study over the last 2 years about how cases have been handled, what's charging rates, conviction rates, prosecution rates, but then the follow through of, with the support of this board to invest in 2 more advocates, to invest in 2 more investigators in St. Paul is leading at the state level here and getting other communities to step up. So it was a great opportunity for us to share the good work we're doing here, and I want to thank all the folks that were part of that presentation. It was very good. So with that, Commissioner Ortega, you have a regional rail meeting immediately following this, and then we have a workshop that Commissioner Ortega will be chairing after regional rail. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.